Hi everyone, it's your favourite Atomic Blonde here with this week's Nerdy Weekly Roundup. Oh, help me. I mean, what kind of Atomic Blonde would I be without a little bit of Stolly, huh? Oh my God. She-Hulk. She-Hulk has done this to me. This week's episode, Jen does stuff. No, that's it. Jen does stuff. It's literally this interesting. Jen does stuff. So Jen goes to court with Titania to get her name back because Titania's trademarked She-Hulk and brought out a range of products. There's billboards everywhere for this skincare range called She-Hulk. Jen gets called into the office by middle-aged cis white, sexist man. Tells her it's not acceptable, go sort it. And she gets given a lawyer. This lawyer was, I think, in a previous episode, the black lady who can't stand Jen. So, so it's just like, dig, yeah, whatever. Basically sort of says, well, you're a bit of an idiot. Why don't you trademark your name? And she's like, oh, does Dr. Strange or Thor have to trademark their name? And she's like, well, no, because that's actually their names. We see Jen in court. And as usual, Jamelia Jamil's just playing herself, obnoxious, self-absorbed, up her own backside. It's not a real stretch. I mean, from a Brit point of view, her American accents seem quite good, but, anyway. The ever-evolving male lawyer that's in it every week, and they never seem to say his name. I don't even know what his name is, but do we care? His personality's changed yet again this week. Every week, he's a completely different personality. So this week we find out the rib-tickling fact that he's a trainer collector, or sneaker collector, as you'd call it over the pond. And there's some exclusive line of Iron Man sneakers coming out, and he wants the Jen's paralegal, who we've established basically does no work whatsoever and continues to do that in this episode, to go with him to Q, secret location, get said trainers. They go off, don't get trainers, discover a secret store with a clothes designer who does clothes for superheroes, who is yet another stereotypical sort of camp, arrogant, no time for anybody clothes designer. They get 15 minutes. He agrees to make a suit for Jen. Jen wins the trial. Jen turns up at said clothes store, goes to try on a suit. We don't see the suit. And in the episode, in a box, we see Daredevil's new hat, helmet, cowl, whatever you want to call it. That's it. That was literally the episode. So Jen does stuff. She goes to trial, wins the case, buys a suit. What can I say? Gosh, I really can't wait for episode 6. I'm so riveted by this show. Go, Jen. Now, onwards and upwards to what's fast becoming my sort of favorite go-to show for the week, House of the Dragon. Now, last week's was a superb episode where we had the war with the stepstones and the great performance from Matt Smith, where he basically goes in and wins the war. This week's episode opens up with the Princess Rhaenyra on her tour of the kingdoms to find a husband. And they're basically, as there's a queue of men, they come up, they sort of say stuff, and she's like, next. So we get, this isn't going well. She's like, they're too old, they're too young, it's like three bears, too hot, too cold, all that. But we are introduced to a character called Blackwood, I think it is. Yeah, Blackwood, who's a young knight, I think. Very young man, probably looks about 13, 14. So she's very dismissive. He's too young because she's sort of 17, 18 at this point, maybe a bit older. But his family's an honourable family. They've got good, descendants and the whole thing. So it wouldn't be a bad match. But again, because he's so young, there's a guy on the side who starts heckling him and then taking the piss out of him, basically. So Rhaenyra has enough of this, just like dismisses everybody, gets up, walks out. As she's walking out, basically the heckler and this Blackwood kid start fighting, almost like dueling. And basically the young kid just like runs him through. It's quite like bloody death. And so already like this kid's young, but he seems to have some cojones on him. And, I guess time will tell how important this scene is, but it seemed quite interesting that this kid was like pretty determined to marry her and took on someone, twice his age, twice his size, and won. So a lot of this episode, I think, is all about setup and what's going to happen. A lot happens this episode, and the plot is really starting to, get momentum. And sort of trying to, really sort of seeing the motivations behind the characters. So we cut to the boat. Basically, the princess has had enough of this. She's cut her tour 2 months short. And obviously the king and the queen have arranged all this. So this is going to go down like a lead balloon. But they're heading back to King's Landing. And as they're on the boat going towards the castle, a dragon flies over, basically knocks the boat, knocks the princess over. She hits her head. And obviously this is Daemon. So she kind of gets up and they're all like, princess, are you okay? And she's sort of, oh, I'm fine. And then she looks up and sees it Daemon, and it's just like a bright smile on her face. We then obviously go to the throne room, and the king's there, and the princess is there, and the subjects, etc. And Daemon walks in, all swag, walks up and sort of holds out a sword, and the king's knights obviously draw their swords, and basically Daemon just hands it over to say, this can be added to the throne. So he's basically sort of trying to make like an olive branch with the king to sort of say, well, I got the stepstones for you. And Damon's got this kind of crown on, and the king says, oh, so you think you're a king now? And he's like, oh, when I won in the stepstones, I was named king of the narrow sea, but there's only one true king, and that's you. And he hands his crown over to the king. Obviously the king's a little bit wary, but he's got this blind spot for his brother, and kind of basically hugs him and accepts the crown and the sword for the throne. And sort of says, we owe you a great debt, and it's kind of him forgiving and sort of bringing Daemon back into the fold. And then we sort of cut to there's a sort of celebration going on. There's like the king and Daemon are drinking, and they're getting along, and the princess is sort of milling around with the queen, and there's sort of a conversation between the princess and the queen, and how Alicent is sort of like, she's kind of got everything she could ever hope for, but she sort of never felt so alone. And basically her job is just there to produce children, and she sort of feels a bit isolated. But you sort of see there's a friendship kind of re-blossomed between the princess and the queen, and they kind of supporting each other. And then we basically then see like Daemon and Rhaenyra, the princess, talking. And it's a really interesting conversation. He sort of starts giving her some advice, basically. And we all know that Daemon is desperately, unhappily married. But again, he's done his duty. And he starts to explain to her that, marriage is political. And, you might just sort of have to suck it up. But it's not the be all and end all. There are pleasures outside of marriage, shall we say. but kind of just do your duty. And basically what we find out from Maria is that she's kind of afraid of becoming her mother in lots of ways. That she says, well, it's easy for men when they marry, they can go, have as many affairs and mistresses as they want, and bastard children, it doesn't matter. But for the women it does, and they're just there to just produce heirs. And she said, like, basically her mother was forced to produce heirs until it killed her, and that she's like, that's not going to be me. So she's like, she understands she's got duty, but she'd rather not marry, and she certainly at this point doesn't want to sire any children, and kind of sets out a stall bit really. And Damon kind of is like trying to say, well, that's a pretty lonely, bleak future if that's you just want to be solitude and not married to anybody. But he sort of does seem to kind of want to take her under his wing a bit. We then have a sort of scene where the sort of political pieces are moving. Lord Valerian has gone back to sort of his kingdom, and he's trying to forge alliances again, and he's sort of he's marrying his daughter to another powerful lord to strengthen his position. So it's really becoming apparent that Ramira's got to have an alliance. She's going to have to get married to someone powerful, and obviously she's not thrilled at this prospect. But again, there's a real kind of tone that duty is one thing, marriage is one thing, and sort of living is something else. And this really comes to fruition in the second part of really this episode. So we cut to the princess going to her chambers, and she finds a pile of clothes and a note with like a map on it with the secret passage. So she gets changed these clothes, and basically it's like a page's clothes, so she looks like a boy. She's got a hat covering her very distinctive hair up, and she follows this secret passage. And it basically, obviously, Damon sent this to her, and he takes her into the city, which as a princess and an unmarried woman is really quite unseemly. She shouldn't be going into the city at night, albeit chaperoned with her uncle, but it's still not the done thing. So Damon starts to show her around, and sort of showing her subjects and how King's Landing actually works. When you haven't got privilege, and if you want things, you have to pay for them. They're not free. So there's always a cost to the choices that you make, is basically what he's saying. And they stop, and there's like a play happening in the streets, and it's kind of mocking the king and her. And there's this whole play is like, he's named a woman as heir. And we all love the princess, but is she going to be strong? Is she going to be feeble? And the crowds are like, she's going to be feeble. But he's like, then had a boy and shouldn't, So it's all that pretty much what everybody's saying, that should Aegon be named king, and sort of oust the princess. Oh, she's not happy about this at all. And again, Damon's trying to explain to her the political motivations, and how she's like, if she wants to be queen, she's got to win these people over. Because she's like, well, it's of no consequence to me. And he's like, well, it is of consequence. You've got to keep the realm together. So they sort of walk away from this play, and someone's sort of selling some fruit or something, and she picks it up, goes to eat it, and he asks for the money. Obviously, she doesn't have any. And again, he's like, well, you got to pay for things. So she sort of throws it down and runs off. And Damon follows her. And then she runs smack into one of like the king's guard. I think she calls him like Sahoth, and he talks like princess, and she's like, no, don't say anything. And he kind of lets her go and goes, oh boy, be on your way. And Damon's sort of just right behind her, and he goes, oh, I just think that's funny. You got to be more careful. And then we basically see Damon. It sort of cuts to Damon taking her, she's in this building, and it transpires it's what a brothel, they call it a pleasure den. So I think it's sort of more than a brothel, really. And as they're walking through this pleasure den, obviously there's lots of acts going on, but it's I guess it's not like a full-on orgy, but there's lots of people just getting off with each other and doing various acts with each other. And obviously the princess is sort of, quite naive to all these things. And she's sort of looking around going, she's like, and she even says like, well, what is this place? And Damon explains what it is. And again, he starts sort of saying, marriage is duty, marriage is political, but, you can do that, but, that you can also have pleasures, and, sex is fun, basically. So, just because you get married doesn't mean you can't go off and have fun. Now, that's very true for the male heirs. Now, whether this is so true for the female heirs is we're kind of getting the message that that's really not the case. So he's sort of leading her astray a bit. And then basically, the princess is getting turned on by seeing all of this. And then next thing you know, Damon's basically kissing her. It's getting quite passionate. And at this point, he's removed her hat. So obviously her long blonde hair's on show. It's catching people's eye. Everybody is sort of clocked that the princess is in this pleasure den, and she's getting it on with her uncle. So it's getting quite heated. Damon pulls away, and then the prince, he keeps pulling away, and then it's just like a moment, and then he basically just walks away from her. Now, obviously, what we don't really know at this stage is that, has he kind of done enough just to ruin her reputation? And he feels he's done enough and like his work's done? Or actually, was there a true moment of conscience that obviously if he sort of, takes her virginity and she's not a maiden anymore, there's major implications to that for the princess and her ultimately, becoming ruler and queen. So, is there a glimmer of consciousness or good in Damon? Because so far we've always sort of seen he's got a bit of a soft spot for her, and does seem to care about her. But I guess time will tell, how what Damon's motives are. So Damon goes off and starts drinking and basically finds himself poor. The princess is kind of mortified and runs off and goes back to the castle. Then when she gets back to the castle, so kind of either having her emotions stirred, shall we say, she invites Kristen Cole, her protector, her night protector, into her chambers, and basically, seduces him. We've got from the previous episode where they stayed over in the woods, and he's clearly very fond of her, and they have a connection. But she basically seduces him, and they end up having sex, and he's obviously deflowered her. And this has massive consequences for him as well, if he got caught or it's found out that he's, slept with a princess out of wedlock, he could be killed for treason. I mean, this isn't a small thing that he's done. So you kind of get from that he must actually really care about the princess. That is this sort of, more than just sort of lust. So she has her way with Cole. And then the next morning, all the consequences to these actions start unraveling. So someone, goes to Otto and basically says, the princess was seen. She was seen in the pleasure den. She was seen, being inappropriate with her uncle. And Otto, goes to tell the king about this, which is a bit, shoot the messenger. And the queen overhears this conversation, and obviously the king is furious. He's like, well, did she or didn't she? Is it a rumor? Obviously, he has and she has political enemies, and it's clearly a lie. And, how dare you come here making accusations? Basically go find my brother. The queen goes to find the princess and confronts her. And she does a great job of being really how dare you? I'm so offended that you'd even suggest such a thing. And basically, the asks her out, like, basically, did you sleep with your uncle? And obviously, Rhaenyra can say, she goes, I swear I didn't have sex. I didn't do anything with my uncle, which is true. She didn't. She did it with Sir Cole. But then she does go on to say, and she swears that she's still a maiden and she's very much fully intact. So she has out and out lied to the Queen and her friend. Damon is found by the guards. He is he is an absolute mess. He is so hungover. You just see like he is hit rock bottom, and the king confronts him. And the king's like, is it true? And he's like, is what true? And he's like, oh, you're not even going to deny it. He goes, well, I don't even know what I'm denying yet. So what is it I'm supposed to have done? And he says, well, did you do this to my daughter? And like Damon doesn't deny it, but he doesn't really confirm it either. And the king's just like, furious, as you quite rightly, and he sort of kicks Damon, and Damon's like rolling around the floor, and he's basically banished again. So saying, right, I've always looked out for you, I've always forgiven you, but we are done. You have gone too far this time. You're dead to me, kind of thing. So then we obviously have the king confronting his daughter. And I think, this really just shows actually how much he loves his daughter, and really, he pretty much kind of takes the side of his daughter, because he's like sort of saying, I've heard this. And she's like, oh, well, you've not even asked me if it's true. And he's like, well, it doesn't matter if it's true. Perception is everything. You've exposed yourself. You've put yourself in a position where you're can be questioned. And basically, he's had enough, and he's right. So you're just going to use me for, political gain and blah, blah, and, and to solve your political headaches. And he just goes, you are my political headache. You are the problem. So basically he's now put his foot down and says, right, I gave you the slack. I gave you the opportunity. Now you're just going to do your duty. You're going to marry Lord Valerian's son, Laenor. That's it. End of. I don't want to hear another thing about it. And actually, she kind of concedes and says, okay, I will do my duty. However, you need to kind of deal with the snake in the ranks. And he's like, well, and she's like, and basically it's a master stroke by her. Because as we've seen, like, Otto has obviously been manipulating things. He wants his grandson to replace her. He wants him to be heir. He, maneuvered his daughter to be queen. And, Rhaenyra is not stupid. She knows this. And she basically says to the king, he's been manipulating things. He's even had spies following me to question, my reputation. His motives are completely skewed. He basically, wants me out of the picture. So the king, we then see the king confronting Otto. And he basically sort of says, you were the previous king's most trusted, advisor, hence why I kept you as advisor. But, I now, I basically can kind of see how much you've been manipulating me, putting your daughter there when I was at, the lowest of my grief. But he's like, oh, but, Alicent loves you. She cares about you, which she does. We clearly get that. But he says, yeah, but it was a calculated gamble that paid off. And now, you're coming to me, telling me these things about my daughter. You're clearly making like a play for the throne with your grandson, and basically, kind of fires him as his right hand, his advisor. And Otto tries to sort of say, well, look, sometimes, I have to be the messenger. I have to say things you don't want to hear. I have to kind of, put forward unpopular opinions. And the king's just like, no, we're done. You've overstepped. You've sort of manipulated me one too many times. And then it kind of ends. So all the way along, the king has really sort of stuck up for Rhaenyra and sort of won't have it that anything happened with her and Damon. And he's trying obviously to protect her as much as he can, but she's got to do, she's got to get married. But he basically sends it looks like a monk. I think it's a monk. Sends him in to see the princess with a tea, and she's like, well, what's this for? And and the said, oh, the king sent it and you need to drink it. And she's like, yeah, but what is it? And he goes, oh, it's tea, and it will basically just take care of any unwanted side effects. So basically it's kind of like a morning after pill tea that the women of the realm use for any unwanted consequences. So it's very much like the king sort of saying, look, I'm defending you, I will defend your honor, but we both know you're playing a very, very dangerous game. And it ends there. So, you know, we don't see her drink the tea. Hopefully she drinks the tea. We don't know. But obviously it's teed up now. You know, Damon's completely ostracized. The king's potentially made an enemy of Otto, who obviously has quite a lot of sway and influence in the kingdom. And to a degree, it's kind of blown up in the princess's face that now obviously she doesn't get a choice of who she married, and she's got it back where she started, having to marry Selenor. But yeah, great episode. Again, there was just like lots of setup in this episode. Really well paced. But I think it's like that kind of episode where I'm hoping certainly that everything just sort of ramps up now. I mean, the scene has been set for everything, you know, all the intrigue, and really sort of the princess's fate sealed. Really, that, you know, she's as much as she's fought it, she's back where she started, and she's got to marry someone out of duty. So let's see where that goes. So really looking forward to this week's episode on Monday. As always, it's on Sky Now TV here in the UK, HBO Max in the States. So if you haven't given it a go, I really recommend this show. And each week it's getting better and better. And say the last few shows, all the pacing issues that we had in the first two have gone. The setups there. Now we just have to really hope we get the payoff. My only other sort of reservations about the show is that we know there's a time jump, and the actresses who play Alicent and Rhaenyra are going to change. And to be fair, these actresses have done a great job, especially Rhaenyra, the actress who plays her. I think it's Millie Alcock, has just been brilliant. She was a little bit at the beginning, but she's really hit her stride. You know, she's you know, it's very easy to play unlikable characters, as we know, unlikable female characters. But actually, you know, she's shown some depth and complexity to the character. Her relationship with her father has been brilliant, and the dynamics and really, really believable. So the actress coming up as big shoes to fill, and let's hope she can pull it off. And the rest of the season's as good as the first 4 episodes that we've had so far. Wait and see. So in terms of things I've been watching, that's probably it in terms of the big things to review. I've kind of been scouring through, trying to find a new show. There's not much out there at the moment, but we know there's always that lull between end of summer before the autumn schedules come out. So I just want to fill the gap. You know, I had this beauty. If you look on my Twitter, there's some pictures of this, and we can see that 4K Lost Boys Steelbook edition. This is absolutely beautiful. It is the 35th anniversary, which makes me feel incredibly old because I do remember going to the pictures to see this. Look at that steelbook. Isn't that gorgeous? Absolutely gorgeous. They're worms, Michael. They're worms. Iconic stuff. Absolutely iconic, but beautiful, beautiful packaging. There we go. Like, good picture of like David there. Good old Kiefer. There's obviously extras on the Blu-ray. I think many of the extras are the same extras that were on the previous anniversary Blu-ray. There's not much new on there, but still nice to have them all in the one case. You also get, as it's the anniversary edition, we get this sort of like little comic, The Lost Boys, and it kind of just goes through like sort of introducing the characters, the storyline. Some lovely pictures in here. So you got David. There you go. You're eating maggots. How do they taste? Absolutely brilliant. You know, so it's like David, and we've got the Frog Brothers going all the way through. It's a lovely quality, lovely pictures in here. The 2 Coreys takes me back. And then we also get, it keeps coming, again, these just nice little collectibles. You basically get a postcard of each of the characters. So again, you've got like David, Marco, good old Bill and Ted, Max, the bad guy. Yeah, so you got these lovely, really good quality photos. Grandpa, they're basically the whole lead cast is kind of in here. The mum. It's quite nice one with the Frog Brothers and oh, come on. How much have I watched it? There we go. That was what I was trying to do. They make it so much easy on TV. There we go. The Frog Brothers and Sam. So yeah, lovely. And then the last little gem, you get this double-sided poster. So I think this is the poster that most people know. This one, sleep all day, party all night, never grow old. It's fun to be a vampire. And then on the flip side, I think this is it's like Japanese or Asian market. So I've never actually seen this poster before. Yeah, but that's quite cool. So yeah, really, really lovely little guests there. But yeah, these sort of 4K special editions that are coming out, the quality is lovely, and certainly if you can get the steelbooks and you're a fan of this film, I mean, it's a kind of cult classic now, and unfortunately, obviously, like Richard Donner is no longer with us. I don't think Joel Schumacher is with us anymore. I'm not sure. Apologies, Joel, if you are still alive. But some of the big hitters that were behind the scenes of this, 35 years later, are no longer with us. But yeah, I just wanted to share this because it's absolutely beautiful, and the 4K restoration is very good as well. I watched it last night, so definitely worth a purchase if you're a fan. Yeah, so as I said, we're sort of waiting obviously for the new shows to come out. I've spoken previously, last couple of weeks actually, about Andor and kind of is it worth getting her again? But obviously the reviewers have been able to see the first 4 episodes of this because it's due to hit Disney Plus on the Wednesday, 21st of September. And yeah, some of the reviews, I mean, I kind of have to take the reviews with a pinch of salt. I mean, we always know the Disney Plus shows, whether they're Star Wars or Marvel, all get glowing reviews regardless of how bad they are. So, but again, there's some people I put more faith in their reviews than others. And their reviews, I would say, haven't put me off. Like I say, after I watched the Disney Plus special day, sort of behind the scenes of Andor, what the guys are saying kind of backs that up, that it's not filmed in volume, it's on location. It sort of cinematically or visually, it looks stunning, it looks really, really good. It's sort of more aimed at adults rather than children, which if you're starting the rebellion, you kind of would feel that we are on more than one planet, which as much as I enjoyed the Mandalorian, being on Tatooine all the time gets a bit. So we've got different locations, and one of the criticisms I saw, which actually sort of made me more interested, is they're like, oh, there's no Easter eggs in here, there's no member berries, there's no key jangling. Why would I want to watch that? Like, what are you on about? We want original stuff. We want enjoyable stuff. We don't, as much as it's, if it looks and feels like Star Wars, you can build forwards without constantly key jangling us. We're intelligent people. So the fact, that's criticisms of it. They're not saying, oh, it's a bad story or it's badly acted. It's like, oh, there's no Easter eggs. You're like, oh, this is like the intelligence of the people reviewing these things. It's quite sad. So all those things actually are making, say, sort of actually, are steering more and more in the direction that maybe this could be good, or maybe watchable. Lower my expectations. Maybe this could be watchable. So yeah, so I'm a little bit more up for watching it. As I said last week, I was going to check it out, but actually, the more I've sort of seen and heard over the last few weeks, I'm a bit more encouraged that I'm not going to sit there and want to stick pins in my eyes trying to get through the episodes. The first 3 episodes is probably, I've been told, is like a contained story. and then and then it sort of moves on to another story within the arc. And I think they cover like a 5-year period in 16 episodes, I believe it is. So again, a kind of bit of break of format with the length of the series, and they're about 40-minute episodes, which is, we've seen it's quite a decent length for these Star Wars things, as they seem to get shorter and shorter. So, but again, time will tell whether I'm just going to get burnt yet again and have to suffer through things to give you guys reviews, or whether I have something watchable and enjoyable to watch. Who knows? Something else I've talked about this week, for those who caught me on the Facebook on Wednesday with Dan and Matt, we were talking about sort of Disney Plus Day and Star Trek Day. And I spoke about Picard season 3, and I just wanted to sort of reiterate what I said in that show for those who didn't see it. So I am not a new Trek fan at all. I managed to sort of stick out the first 2 seasons of Discovery, and that's very much because I think they had they had Michelle Yeoh, they had Jason Isaacs, and the guy that plays Pike, I think it's Ensign Mount, all very good actors, and kind of made it a bit bearable. Going into season 3, I was just out. I watched that first episode and was like, wow, this is just stupid. I slogged through season 1 of Picard, and it was just boring. It was just so boring. And the fact that, we all change as we age and events change us, but Picard was completely unrecognizable. He was nothing like the Jean-Luc Picard from TNG or even the TNG films. There's just such a disconnect in what I was watching. I think I watched the first episode of season 2, and again, I was just like, I can't do this. Like, my brain's like crawling out my ears. I can't do it. I'm out. And I haven't bothered watching any other new Trek because of that. I've heard some good things about Strange New Worlds. I may watch it. I'm pretty on the fence with that one. But yeah, I'm very like, if something's good, it's I'll it deserves a pass. I won't not watch something bloody mindedly. I won't cut my nose off to spite my face. If it not watching a good show for various reasons. And that kind of sort of brings me around really to the point of bringing this up about Picard season 3. I was massively torn on this one. I've heard great things from R&B, Robert Meyer Burnett, on his channel. Like, we haven't spoken personally, obviously. But he's done a great observations with Terry Matalis, talking about Picard, and he's a showrunner for season 3. He wrote 2 episodes on Picard season 2. I've heard a few people going, oh, he was a showrunner for season 2. He wasn't the showrunner for season 2. He wrote 2 episodes of season 2. And again, in Rob's opinion, they were probably the best 2 episodes of season 2. I'd say I can't comment because I just couldn't put myself through it. And looking at the trailer, and listening to Terry, he's a real Star Trek fan. He gets this stuff. He knows what makes Star Trek Star Trek. And even just looking at the ship, the Titan A, they've brought the saucer shape back. It looks like Star Trek. Space Dock, you looked at it and knew it was Space Dock straight away. It looks and feels like, and because Robert has seen the series or the scripts or something, we're not entirely sure what he has or hasn't seen because it's all NDA. And it was leaked to him as well. So in fairness to him, though, he's not blurting things out. He's not ruining it for Terry. But like I said, I was really torn because I hate Secret Hideout. I hate everything they've done to Star Trek. I don't want it to stay with Kurtzman and his ilk. However, though, if this is real Star Trek made by someone who loves Star Trek, I kind of want the guy to be able to continue to make good Star Trek. And I'm just worried that if we don't turn up for good Star Trek, it just gives, you know, Kurtzmans of this world all the ammunition they need to say, you know, we are a toxic fan base, and it doesn't matter what you give them, they're never happy. And, you know, I'm just going to go back to making what I want to make, because, you know, they won't turn up anyway. So I really, really don't want that to happen. So I am, and I generally feel excited after, say, watching Observations, knowing the people involved have worked on Voyager, they've worked on Enterprise, that these are veterans of Star Trek who have come back to support Terry in making this story. Picard season 3 is the final Picard story. There is not going to be anything past that. So anything Terry does would either have to be a new show, or whether he picks up writing on one of the other existing shows, I don't know. But he can only do that, you know, if this does well. So I'm just sort of, it's not out till 16th of February next year. But, you know, it'll be with us before we know, you know, once you get to September, the rest of the year goes like that, and it'll be Christmas soon. So yeah, so I'm just sort of saying, I will check it out. I will watch it. If I don't agree with Rob and I think it's crap, I will say it's crap and I'm out and I'm massively disappointed. And yet again, I've been let down and burnt, and I'll be very, very honest. I'm not going to say I like it just because RB likes it. But I've got a little bit of hope. And I mean, I hope's a dangerous thing, but I do have a little bit of hope that maybe it's good. Who knows? And I guess kind of in the same vein, you know, a little bit of hope. The most of obviously what was announced on Disney Day was just garbage. I mean, it's stuff, you know, that none of us have asked for, none of us want. I mean, you know, it's just, and I mean, we know the stories before they're even on the screen, right? We know exactly how they're all going to play out. We know how badly the MCU has landed. Good old Phase 4, you know, but going into Phase 5, who knows? And the only trailer that really sort of stood out for me was Secret Invasion. That trailer was good, but again, I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm just, you know, naively, I'm sure, and just like over optimistically hoping that Samuel L. Jackson is given a good vehicle to reclaim Nick Fury. You know, he started out as such a good character, you know, and again, you know, when Iron Man came out, I think there was a bit of murmurings because Nick Fury was white in the comics and they cast Samuel L. Jackson. But I mean, I couldn't see anybody playing Nick Fury other than Samuel. And he just won everybody over because, again, it was never mentioned or highlighted his color. He's just Nick Fury, and he's cool and he kicks ass and all those kind of things. And gradually, as we got into, you know, Phase 4, well, it's starting actually with Phase 3 with Captain Marvel. We sort of started the deterioration of his character and the ridiculous backstory of how he lost his eye to a cat. You know, and just started basically cucking him from that point forward. So I'm really hoping that we get to see kick-ass Nick Fury, kick-ass Samuel, and he can sort of build his character back up, and he's not just there as a foil to all the whammons, and he's just something to laugh at. Unfortunately, you know, they've still got him with these stupid cat scratches on his eye rather than what we saw originally with the, you know, like real proper scarring and his eye being gone and all of that. But you know, I can live with cat scratches if he is actually allowed to play Nick Fury. It is allowed to, you know, shine the way the character should shine. So yeah, as I said, I mean, out of everything that's kind of been announced, Secret Invasion is the only one I've kind of got any interest in, really. Obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, when that comes out at cinema, given that James Gunn's still attached to that, and hopefully he's got quite a lot of say in how the story and how that played out. I'm again hoping that that's a, you know, a good conclusion to the Guardians films, and it's not been trashed by Phase 4. yeah, so really, yeah, for me, it's Guardians and it's Secret Invasion. We'll see. I mean, I know you're all going, Andrea, why are you giving them any benefit of the doubt? And it's purely just out of love for Samuel L. Jackson. I just say I really hope he gets his character back. And who knows how long his character is going to be around in the MCU. So I really wanted to go out on a high if his character is going to be sort of phased out, or we're going to see less of him, rather than the last thing we get to remember is Captain Marvel and how he's been treated since then. So we'll see. I'm not sure what the release date is for Secret Invasion. I think it's next year, 2023. So it's gonna be a while until we see it. But yeah, it's so there's like 2 or 3 things that I've just said that I'm really hoping are good. Andor, Picard season 3, Secret Invasion. But as you know, I'll be nothing but honest when we do get these shows, and I will tell you exactly what I think. And hopefully it will not drive me to more Stolly. I will have to start billing Disney for my vodka consumption if this crap keeps coming out. So short and sweet this week. Until we start getting some more shows coming out, I'm not going to review stuff for the sake of it. Still looking to do a full Cobra Kai season 5 review, because that was just so brilliant. It deserves a standalone episode. So hopefully that'll be coming your way shortly as well. And I will see you next week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you to all those who've subscribed so far. It just means the world. I think last time I said I was on 50 subscribers. I've now just crept over 60. Which in the scheme of things, it is more than I could ever hope for. But again, so the next target is 70. So please help me get to that. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram. I'm Andy LDM50 on Twitter and Atomic Blonde on Instagram. I've just set up I have my own Instagram, but I've just set up an Instagram for the channel where I'll also be posting the videos. So if that helps you share it that way, then thanks very much. And I will be back next week. Take care.